And I think we are live here on YouTube and on Instagram. Yeah, I think this is better. Good, great. I think it's awesome. Anyways, thank you, good people from the internet, the ones that are joining us today. Uh, both channels via Instagram or via YouTube. On the series of lives that we have every Friday. Not the same topic every Friday though, but this one around is a topic of discussion. Some of the themes that we are going to be discussing on today are areas that we explore in the Speak Up Club properly. For those of you that might be interested in getting to, you know, participate in one of our sessions for the Speak Up Club. Now, um, on today, the topic, the relativeness of time perception, life. Um, this this was inspired on a question I received last week, live that we had here last week with former students of mine, and that participated in our first Q&A, and that question was made by Mr. Pedro, and really happy for the question because it actually allowed a lot of exploration on our side. The question was, well, not exactly, of course, something like this. How is it that we know exactly when we are fully fledged adults, when we're completely um, mature, grown-ups, etc.? How do we know, right? And I guess that this type of question make us think back a little bit of how is it that we perceive time so much that we become self-aware of our time, depending on all the different social conditions that time has upon our, for example, how we identify socially, be it as it may, an adult, a teen, elderly person, child, etc. That made me think of myself, of course, my own experience of how is it that people, when I was a kid, or in different moments in my life, I used to perceive time, how I used to perceive my own time, how I used to see time moving in other people. And then everything that we get to learn because of education about the same topic. Of course, we all know, if we begin from the principle of Einstein, that time is relative, and is proven on the conditions of the level of focus makes a type of a moment in time more intense than others. Be it, for example, when you are busy or enthralled or in an endeavor that takes all of your attention, so much that you can consider yourself as being in some type of zone. Time flies in that period of time that you dedicate yourself to do this activity 100% of your focus. Time definitely is perceived faster than in other moments. Like if you otherwise were doing something that you consider tedious, tiresome, bothersome, annoying, time that you dedicate for that particular activity becomes unbearably long. And it's strange, but it's true. I guess that people can see these type of examples when walking in the street. I mean, if you have to walk through along a street that has quite a lot of um, life going on, in that street. I mean, many different shops or different places with lights, people around it. The time that it takes for you to go from one extreme of the street to the other extreme is way shorter than the same length of a street, but if that street had nothing, like it was just an alley. So that alley becomes extremely long. And the reason why that happens is because of how we perceive time. It's a phenomenon that's been proven for a long, long, long time. But what about our levels of focus depending on the moments that we live in our lives? And we can say that, yes, definitely the way we perceive things or reality was different in every different moment that we lived. Those of us that at least still keep a sane recollection of our memories from early ages, we can say that many things that we saw during our time as kids, maybe as babies, toddlers, or maybe as as a little child, let's say between your 6 and your 9 year of age, or as a teenager, or as a young adult. If you remember seeing one single thing, let's say your house from the outside, a park near your neighborhood, a some public establishment or building, if you grew up seeing the same um, object, possibly you will not tell so quickly, but you definitely tell. But if you travel, for instance, and you go back and see it, you understand that it seems that the same object changed. It became smaller. It became possibly not or more defined or less defined. It gained some features that were possibly all features that just along the time they got to develop a certain look that makes this place look the way it is with time. In reality, possibly the thing didn't change as much as we did. Especially, for example, if we saw this particular building, this particular object as we were kids, we definitely would say that that object was bigger than few years after if we get to see the same object again. We get to grow, not that object. And if we get to grow and that object remains the same, obviously we are seeing the same object as if he had shrunk with time, which is not true. Same situation happens with the way we perceive people. I remember when my dad was 27 years old. I don't remember if I was 8 or 9 years old myself. And what I remember of seeing him is I thought that he looked old. I thought that. But 27, I know now that 27 years so young in life now that I am 42. And if I get to, make the mental exercise of uh, making the mental trip of putting myself in my shoes when I was 20 or when I was 22 and trying to remember vividly a face. And then I looked at the photos of the same face of that time. At that time, I thought that that person looked older. At this time, I totally believe that the person was definitely younger. Why is that? Why is it seems that at certain moments we see something in a different age when in reality it wasn't like that. Now that we are past the age, from the perspective of the object that we are analyzing in memory or with retrospective, we can see that there is a different position, precision of the perception of the object that we are analyzing in retrospective. Yes, there is an influence of memory, the way that our memory is set up at the moment that we perceive things. And it is important that we consider things like this for many different opinions that we do regarding facts in history. I particularly am of the belief of doubting, that principally doubting facts for the way the facts are presented. And what I mean by this is, in our history, everything that we know of our history before the times of cameras was basically relying on the uh, let's say the possible agreement of a series of witnesses that describe a situation happened in a certain way. We all know how meek that becomes a possible way to see reality today, because just by believing the comments of a few hundreds, we cannot really say that whatever they claim that they say that happened, it is as it happened, if we don't really see an image that proves it. That is the reality of today. That is how we understand facts today. But what about all those years in which cameras were not there? There was no CCTV records that we could rely on to, you know, speak or to be assertive about anything. And what I mean, we're speaking about all different type of phenomena in history, from the conclusion of a war to the events of um, a natural phenomena, even a disaster. We don't really have a way to describe, sorry, to be certain of something 100%, even if the historians that we use are really respectable today. Why is that? Well, because there are different factors that definitely are involved in the way such people, such witnesses, describe the facts that they did. We're speaking about their age, their political affiliations, and how about their emotional stage? Emotional stage happens to be a factor that definitely affects the way in which you perceive certain things. If you are afraid, you see certain the things that you get to see have a particular type of age that is not the same as when your brain is in the normal peaceful way. That age, that sharpness is not present in the same form. The same situation happens when you're depressed. When you're depressed, the light that you perceive through things is not similar. And let's say maybe the hope, your hopefulness, or about life in reality that is projected in the facts that you see and how you appreciate certain situations over other situations. When that happens, you realize that your perception or your life or the reality that you're perceiving is completely merged with something that you're adding to it, but it's not necessarily there 100%. If what we have is a few, a handful, or maybe even hundreds of witnesses from at the time describing of a fact, that something that happened, we definitely rely 100% on records that might, let's say, might not necessarily preserve all the same intentions of all the people that were involved at the time that those records were set, be it in written material or the few ones in history that were recorded in audio and in the oldest forms of records. We all know how fragile history is in reality. And the reason why I bring this up today is because I think that sometimes we are not necessarily 100% aware of the reality that we see is not 100% truth. The reality we see right now is a reality that has the filters of the right now. And a few years from now, if we look back, we will possibly consider this same moment that we are seeing from a different perspective. Even myself, I can say that this video I'm making is a video that is mostly for myself, the myself of a few years from now, and to give him an evidence of how he can see how I used to think at this moment. And at this moment, I believe it is an important situation for everyone to consider how you used to think at every moment of your life. If every moment of your life has the capacity of being influenced by different situations, then your reality in itself is not 100% as you think it is. If that's the case, well, then reality being completely malleable and completely possible, possibly uh, um affectable, possibly uh, manipulated to whatever aim or whim a person may have, then reality also has the capacity of being rebuilt and reshaped and reposed to become better of way better than what people sometimes consider and even enjoy of life. So, on the same series of ideas regarding how we perceive life and how time is connected to the way that we enjoy life and how we handling best our time, we can actually improve our lives. Well, then consider this reality being completely malleable, completely manipulatable. Use it. Use that particularity of reality to your own favor and try to see if this message that you can make from this time that you're living can be perceived as it is supposed to be for your future self. And if that's the case, how proud can you make your future self of your current self? Because that's important. That would be awful if your future self disregards your present self. Well, people, we reached today's live session, which it was all about continuing with the series of uh, topics and areas of conversation that we used to have in the Speak Up Club with audience. And now we have the opportunity to share some of these comments, some of these topics for most people to consider and ponder about and say in case you're interested in getting involved in a conversation similar to this, in making your own comments regarding things like we speak right here at the Speak Up Club. We invite you, come over, join us. We got the Speak Up Club. Right now, we got sessions Wednesdays and Saturdays. We got Fridays, not all the time, but pending, waiting for people to sign up. Um, the hours similar to today. We came out live at 19 hours Ecuador, and that will be 20 hours New York. So that will be Wednesdays too, Fridays, and on Saturdays we got a 14, yes, for 16 hours Guayaquil, Ecuador, and that'll be 16, 17 hours New York. And you know where you can reach us here in the channel, A-létheia. And everyone, thank you for your patience and for your support. See you at the Chica Club. Bye bye, people.